Tim Modise. Monday to Thursday, 9 to midnight.
Good evening to you and welcome to Power Perspective here on Power 98.7. I'm Tim Modise and I'm going to be with you until 12 midnight. In the studio, I'm with the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters. His true title within the organization is that of Commander-in-Chief and National Convener, JuliusMalema. He's in the studio with me, and a pleasure to have you with us, Julius.
Thank you, Tim, for having me.
Much appreciated. And later on, so you know, Julius Tsepotsula is going to be following you.
Yes.
So this is how my night looks like. So
yeah,
I'm going to have a great evening.
No, that's a nice one.
Right.
That's a nice one.
But here is the point to you, Julius. I'm working this time of the night. Do you feel sorry for me as an economic freedom fighter that I have to work until this time of the day, or this shows true emancipation?
No. Ordinarily, you should be home relaxing with your family. Having spent a day, working, and you're doing this because you're still trying to accumulate that economic power.
So you think that I belong to a group of people that might have been sleeping throughout the years, not fighting for economic freedom, or you understand where we're coming from?
No,
those of my age group.
You are victims of economic oppression, and the struggle for economic emancipation seeks to avoid exactly what is happening to you.
So for your generation and group of members, you don't want to see what we went through?
No, we're refusing that. And we have defined a generational mission for ourselves, and we're saying the future and that of our children should be, a better future.
JuliusMalema is in the studio with me. He is the title is very interesting. You're called the Commander-in-Chief. Why Commander, not just the leader, chairman, or president?
We are using a different language just to get comrades into action. We need fighters on the ground, and they must know that they are not armchair politicians, they are foot soldiers. And therefore, this titles encourages them to work very hard, because soldiers don't see themselves as leaders. They see themselves as people who must work the ground.
JuliusMalema with me here on Power Perspective, and you can send us Twitter messages at PowerFM 987 or at Tim Modise. You give us a call 011-014-9200, SMSs to 44622. And of course, you can send me emails to powerperspective@powerfm.co.za. I'm still coming to the launch and and your objectives, the manifesto, and so forth, in the program of the Economic Freedom Fighters. Something happened in South Africa. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago when the cabinet was reshuffled? Yes. President Zuma fired a few ministers, about 3 of them: Richard Baloyi, Dinapule, and Tokyo Sehwale.
Yeah, look, I still don't know why Tokyo was fired, because he's got no history of non-performance or a history of scandals. But Dinapule and Richard is understandable. I mean, Richard comes from my province. We were together in the Provincial Executive Committee of the ANC. But yesterday when they said Richard Baloyi, or a day before yesterday, he's fired, I was like, who's that one now? Because he's known for nothing.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I mean, we can just walk out here and ask people, who's Richard Baloyi? They will think you're talking about some musician who's unknown and emerging in Guyana or somewhere like that. So, not doing anything. You don't do anything negative. You don't do anything positive. That is an extreme. You can't have that type of a minister. I mean, Minister Dinapule knew very well that all those allegations against her, there were serious allegations, including lying in public, that she does not, know the gentleman in question. We know they know each other. We've been with them in the same space, and we know how they know each other. And to say to people, I don't know this person, it's wrong. But leaving, Njimuseha and Natim Tetwa in those two positions, for me, is not a genuine, reshuffling. I mean, there was a massacre committed under the watch of Minister Mtetwa, there was a crisis of textbooks. Under Minister Motshekga, there was never an action against anybody. But that reshuffle, it doesn't help us. I think we need a reshuffle of a president, not of ministers.
Now, I wanted to talk about Tokyo Sexwale specifically, because it was alleged all along, even when you started turning against the leadership of the ANC, when you were still inside the ANC, and even when he testified as in your favor at the disciplinary hearings, that he was your sponsor. That is the rumor that was doing the rounds. It was reported that basically this is the person who's looking after. Do you suspect that he could have been dismissed because of those rumors?
He's a victim of political independence and frankness and robustness. And knowing him is one of the fearless fighters. So he's being punished for what he did in Mangaung and maybe perhaps also suspicion that he might be one of the funders of economic freedom fighters, which is incorrect. But he's not the only person who testified in the DC. There are many credible leaders of the ANC and some ministers who testified in our favor in the DC. But Comrade Tokyo constitute a permanent threat against the principal, and therefore knowing the principle that he can't tolerate a different view, including political opponents, he had to take Comrade Tokyo out. So Diana and Richard Baloyi ke mesemelo ya Kgoshi, because Kgoshi a robale sena mesemelo. The main target was Tokyo.
Okay. Now, you talk about the president, and you have been very critical of him, sometimes disparaging, I must tell you. Over the past 18 months or so, 2 years, right? But the president had complimentary things to say about you when the church that you built for your late mother was launched, and he said you were a young man full of promise, leadership qualities, you could become a Mandela one day. Why do you turn against a leader who himself, it appeared, was nurturing you, was grooming you, was looking after you, gave you space to emerge as now this prominent young politician?
I've always said President Zuma has got a very good personality and is a likable, old man who's full of life and always engages on, open-minded, personal, non-political, issues. Is that type of a person. But when it comes to, political leadership and the direction and leadership style, he becomes a completely different person who is not acceptable and likable. And having worked with him, we realized that with time, and I didn't start, criticizing the leadership style when I got expelled in the ANC. Actually, that led to my expulsion because having sat in the NEC of the ANC for 4 years under his leadership, I used to stand up and say, when you are given an opportunity to give a political input, you never speak politics. The only thing we hear is complaints and rumors and suspicions. You will always say to us, information came about some of the things you are doing, and you're leading us through fear and intimidation. And that type of leadership style we don't need. We need a leader who will help us analyze the motive forces internationally and the balance of forces, whether are in favor of forces of change or not. What are the problems in Zimbabwe? What led to, the killing of Muammar Gaddafi? Those types of discussion. We never had that. There's always a story. There's a woman who came here with information. And all the time it's a woman and information. And in their majority are from KZ. And we said, this can't be. It can't be the leadership style where we're always subjected to discuss, rumor mongering and information, unverified, information, including turning both the ANC and South Africa into a police state where people are scared to communicate on issues because they suspect they are being policed and they can be victimized for that.
I'm with Julius Malema, the Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters. Now, are you genuine in the establishment and launch of this movement, the Economic Freedom Fighters, or is this your reaction to the expulsion from the ANC Youth League?
I have advanced these issues in the ANC and warned them in the structures of the ANC and leadership manipulated processes to ensure that these issues do not, emerge. These are not issues that I'm raising after the expulsion. We have raised them. We are genuine. We have made a call to South Africans on what is to be done, raised 3 questions, asked for volunteers. In less than a month, we got 20,000 volunteers. We've got structures all over the country in less than a month. And people are responsive because they know that we are genuine to the cause, and we support the cause for economic emancipation. So this is not an organization formed on the basis of anger. We are forming it on the basis of a generational mission that we have defined for ourselves. And when that mission got compromised in the Congress movement, we had to find an alternative. Majority are saying let's form a political party, and we said we can't take such a decision. The few of us, let's subject it to the people, and the people are going to decide on whether political formation or just a forum on the 26-27 in Soweto.
JuliusMalema with me here on Power Perspective on Power 98.7. And Sizwe, you are holding for us from Pretoria. Good evening to you. Welcome. Sizwe? Is Sizwe gone? Let's go to Joe in Mpumalanga. Joe?
Hello.
Yes, good evening. Welcome, Joe.
Yes. Commander-in-Chief, how are you, sir?
Fine, how are you, my chief?
I'm okay. Chief, I'm 45 years old. My last born is 7 years old. When she's 20, she needs a president for the country, and we are the men for that.
Thank you, my brother.
Why is that, Joe?
Juju is the future. I believed on Juju. First, I was not into politics, but Juju, at my age, he made me to be aware that this is a man to follow.
Okay, so you're quite impressed, yeah?
Yes, yeah. Akang needs Julius vibrancy and political wing. Amku needs political home. Don't answer that now, Juju. Think about it. Don't be emotional about it. If your homes could be auctioned, why not Tinkandla? Thank you and bye-bye.
All right.
Yeah, look, I think that is, a compliment and words of encouragement, and we're inspired by such messages.
Let's talk to Opa in Lyndhurst here in Joburg. Good evening to you, Opa.
Hello.
Yes, welcome.
Yes, how are you?
We're good. I hope you're well.
I'm good, man.
Tobe.
Chief, I just wanted to ask one quick question. I'm sure if you start a political party, you'd want everyone to vote for you, including women.
Yes.
At some stage, Julius, you said about President Zuma that the lady, you remember Kwezi?
Yes.
The lady, you said she enjoyed the sex, number one, since she asked for money for transport and all that.
Yes.
And then the next thing, you said, you and your cronies, I remember you guys said it was unexpected sex. And at some stage, you said, Hori, when you were willing to take up arms and fight for Zuma. But, Chief, I mean, how do you expect women to vote for you if you actually were saying to them, you know what, if somebody rapes you and you open up a case, it's unexpected sex and all that. How do you expect that? How are you going to change the views of women?
Sure. Given those comments. Thank you very much. We got it, Opa. What's your comment?
Look, we were found guilty by the Equality Court and fined 50,000, including making a public apology. We've apologized for those comments, and we argued during that time that we were actually quoting a judgment by Judge van der Merwe. It's no longer relevant now to justify. We sincerely apologized. And those who know our history will know that we are products of women. I'm a child of a single parent, a mother, a domestic worker who worked very hard to, support me. And in the struggle, we were mentored by women. And Mama Winnie remains one woman who will tell you that we've got no such disrespect to women, especially women who continue to inspire confidence and continue to support their families and their children under these difficult conditions. And we're saying to women it was an unfortunate statement which we regretted and still regret, and committed not to repeat such an utterances.
Well, let me go back to the launch of the Economic Freedom Fighters movement. I think it is at this time. It's not
a movement.
Okay,
Yes.
at this time. But you have come up with a document where you say you've got key non-negotiable pillars for economic freedom in our lifetime. Can you just go through them? And I will be taking calls in a moment after that.
Yeah, look, we're talking about expropriation of land without compensation, because we believe that we need to return the land into the hands of rightful owners. We're talking about nationalization of mines. We're talking about massive industrial development in order to create sustainable jobs and a living wage. We're talking about a free education, and not just education, but quality education that will liberate a mind of an African child. We're talking about the economic growth of Africa, because South Africa, if it is not going to invest in the growth of economy in Africa, will have this permanent crisis of Africans coming to South Africa, continuing to look for opportunities. But also the investment in Africa will actually help us to create an African state that is capable of taking over from imperialist forces who continue to steal our resources, in Africa. And we're talking about an anti-corruption and transparent government which is accountable to its people. And those are non-negotiables. And one will ask a question, but some of you are facing allegations of corruption, and therefore, how are you going to lead an anti-corruption? And our answer has been very simple. Those allegations are before court. They will be tested, and they will be resolved by court. If any of us is found guilty of corruption, that goes without saying. Such a person will never occupy positions of responsibility in the structures of the economic freedom fighters. Those are the non-negotiables. We are informed and inspired by the Freedom Charter, which made us to come up with such, non-negotiables.
This is Julius Malema with me here on Power Perspective on Power 98.7. We're taking calls from you, 011-014-9200. Twitter messages at PowerFM 987 or at Tim Modise. Give us a call and send us SMSs to 44622, 44622 for SMSs. Jethro in Alexandra, I'm coming to you in a moment. We also have David in Pretoria. We have Tsepang in Braamfontein, Sizwe in Pretoria, and Manfred in Parktown, James Garden Park. I will be taking your calls in a moment.
Today on Power Breakfast.
Jesus Christ, what a question to come from the Pope. Huh? What would Jesus drive?
Do you remember those old Beatles, those folksies?
Yeah.
I reckon that will
Those are too
be a
hippie.
great car.
You can hear them coming from a mile away.
So it's good to be modest.
Well, that's rich coming from you, Lawrence. You won't make it to the Vatican in that car. You should sell your car and donate the money to charity.
Yes.
Be inspired by the
I haven't even seen what I'm driving.
I'll take the money.
Power Breakfast. Weekdays, 6 to 9 a.m. Power 98.7. Now, we are talking.
To celebrate Hatfield Audi being voted Micro Group of the Year and Audi Centre Rivonia being voted Dealership of the Year in 2012, we are offering an exclusive deal on all new and demo units across the Audi range. Get an additional Hatfield 15,000 kilometers extended maintenance plan at no extra cost when purchasing a new or demo unit from one of our award-winning dealerships. For more information, visit hatfieldaudi.co.za or contact Audi Centre Hatfield or Audi Centre Rivonia. Hatfield, rated #1 in service.
Power. You have it. Power 98.7. Now, we are talking.
I'm with Julius Malema here on Power Perspective. And Jethro, you're in Alexandra. Good evening to you. Welcome. Jethro?
Bra Juju, how's it, bra? Yeah, good. Juju, I just want to ask you this question. as you know, Alexandra, man, I'm one of the young person from Alexandra. And then every leader, when he wants to do something, asking for the votes, he comes to Alex, and then claiming that let's celebrate the 100 years of Alex. What different are you going to do on this new political party that you have launched today? And then as a young person, what am I going to benefit from this? And then again, I'm your apology that you say sorry to the South African for giving us a wrong president. I'm accepting that apology.
Thank you very much, my brother. I think apology in society should worth something, and I'm happy that you are such a person who lives up to the expectation when people apologize. There's nothing to celebrate in Alexander. 100 years of misery, 100 years of poverty, 100 years of suffering of our people, and Alexander, occupies a special place, in my heart, because the living conditions of our people in Alexander, are so painful, and there can't be any leader who takes himself or herself serious, who can encourage the people of Alexander to celebrate such 100 years. It is important that we need to collectively with the people of Alexander find a way of restoring the dignity of our people there by giving them, proper services and proper houses. And 100 years should have meant that there's going to be a clear outlined program on how are you going to, change the living conditions of the people of Alexandra. I've tried that in the past. I brought Premier Mugonyane to Alex. I brought the former Minister of Human Settlement to Alex, and commitments were made that from that interactions there's going to be some improvement. And unfortunately, nothing happened. We are going to work together to fight unemployment of young people. We're going to work together to ensure that you have access to quality education and the necessary skills through a practical program, not just a rhetoric.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to Tsepang in Bloemfontein. Good evening to you, Tsepang. Welcome.
Commander-in-Chief.
My chief.
We're saying the kind of leadership you're showing, can you please move forward with your movement? We're saying as young people, we support you.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
All right, and we have Sizwe Pretoria.
Oh, yes.
Welcome.
Yes, I've got two questions for Juju. Number one, if you were state president, what would your plan be for real economic black transformation in getting the riches back to black people? And number two, what would your plan be for transformation in the judiciary with regards to race issues as raised by the mad black lawyer?
All right, we got that, Sizwe. And David Pretoria, I'm going to take three calls, one after the other. David Pretoria. David, are you there?
Hello, how are you?
Yes, welcome.
Can I speak to the Commander-in-Chief?
My chief.
Bob.
Yebo.
I need to know what you're going to do about the rape issue in South Africa. And the second point is, what do you think of South African taxpayers paying for maintenance of the kings and chiefs of our various cultures around South Africa, especially the ones in the KZN and probably the Eastern Cape? And I also want to know what you're going to do for people who, like the...
David, thanks.
Hello?
Okay, yeah, what's the last question?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
we're
ahead.
listening.
We're listening to you.
Yeah, those are my concerns.
Yeah.
And then probably to save time, that's all I want to know.
All right, thank you very much. And Manfred, you're in Parktown. Manfred?
Hello?
Yes, good evening. Welcome, Manfred.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, Commander-in-Chief.
My chief.
I roll EFF, I roll.
I roll our pap.
All I'm asking is, Commander-in-Chief, we're asking, are you going to be as slow as the ANC in passing policy? For example, labor brokers. We as employers, young employed in South Africa, we are suffering from these imperialists, the people that are in charge. And we also, in schools, Section 13 is still running the schools, Commander-in-Chief, where kids can't get into a school anyway. We have to live within an area to get into a school area within the province. So we're asking Commander-in-Chief, what are you going to do about those things? How are you going to change those policies? Because you can't live in a country where you can't get into a school. You have to live we are being isolated. My command.
All right, we got that. Manfred, thank you very much. So we got those questions. If you can please respond.
Yeah, no. I think that the issue of access to schools is going to be one of the key issues as we outline it in our, 7 pillars. That quality education is going to be very critical for sustainable economic emancipation, and that leads to creating an environment where kids will have schools closer to where they are living. They will have qualified teachers, and those teachers are paid very well to boost their morale. And the issue of labor brokers, we are not even going to be entertaining whether we should have them or not. They should be abolished, and our people should be employed directly by their employers, and employers should take responsibility. I think the issue of cultural leadership is an issue that society will have to find a solution to it. We respect our traditional leadership, and we need to take care of them. But this massive spending on them should be looked into, because they live in luxury, whereas a majority of their subjects are, poverty-stricken, and it creates a wrong impression. I think the issue of rape goes with a judicial transformation. We need a judiciary that is going to be very harsh and very firm when it comes to those who rape women, and it must be one of the societal non-negotiables. It must be clear that once you rape, particularly raping of the old-aged women, society should reject such people, and through that rejection, we'll see people becoming, reasonable and not engaging in such activities. Our program outlines how a black majority are going to benefit. The return of the land to rightful owners means Africans in particular, and blacks in general. And we're going to do that unashamedly, and we are not going to negotiate. Whoever owns the land, if you don't want to be a victim of such, you have to cooperate and say, we've got enough land to share in South Africa. And we're not saying white fellow South Africans should be driven to the sea, but we are saying to them, you must be willing to share, and all of us should share in the wealth of this country. All of us should share the land of this country, so that we all have got something to show that indeed we are owning. And through ownership, we'll restore the dignity of black majority, will ensure that we deal with the issue of white supremacy. Nationalization should lead to industrialization and beneficiation through such nationalization of mines and banks and other strategic sectors of the economy should finance the social upliftment program of the state, so that we meet the demands of our people.
Let's still take calls at 011-014-9200 here on Power Perspective on Power 98.7. Twitter messages at PowerFM 987 or at Tim Modise. And emails you send to powerperspective@powerfm.co.za. SMSs to 44622. JuliusMalema is in the studio with me. I like the title, Commander-in-Chief. I'm still trying to work my mind around it.
Marshalling forces.
Now, tell me, who designed the look of the economic freedom fighters? I mean, I can see that you guys have got also a fashion statement to make.
No, I mean, this is our identity. Most revolutionaries, Thomas Sankara and Che Guevara, Commandant Fidel Castro and them, they used to wear a beret, and we're inspired by them, and our courage, you know, is inspired by what they've done, particularly at an early age. I mean, Sankara was in his 30s, and Castro was in his 20s when he led the revolution in Cuba.
You know, every time I see you on television, I think about Hugo Chavez. Do you style yourself after him?
No, but he's one of the good leaders that we respected so much, and we were very happy with what he has done to the people of Venezuela, and that, you know, continues to inspire us.
Have you ever met Hugo Chavez in person?
I've not met the Hugo Chavez. I've met the current president when I went to receive the flag for a youth festival, because we hosted it here in South Africa, and he was out of the country when I was in Venezuela.
All right, let's go to the lines now, and we have a caller on the line. Let me see who that is. It's James. Let's go and talk to James, who's on line 7. James, line 7. Good evening to you. Welcome. James?
Commander-in-Chief.
My commander.
I just want to ask you this question. The corruption charges which are hanging all over you. The question is, what if you face jail time? What will happen to EFF? What will happen to your title, Commander-in-Chief, before elections?
All right, thanks. Sure, thank you, James. We got that, and let's go to Masintle. Masintle, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
We're good, I'm fine, welcome.
Mr. Malema just mentioned that our President Jacob Zuma doesn't have the leadership skills that he expects the president of the country should have. And now, since I've known him, even when he was the ANC youth leader, he was always being spotted living the lavish life of expensive cars, clothes, and also going to different kinds of parties. Now, I'd like to know from him is that the kind of lifestyle he's going to live as the leader of the EFF? And if yes, does he think that that kind of lifestyle will encourage the poor to vote for him?
We got it.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. And we now go to Nomzamo. No, Nomzamo, line 10. Good evening. Welcome, Nomzamo.
Hello, Tim.
Yes, welcome, ma'am.
This is Mrs. Telezi from KZN.
Yes, welcome, ma'am.
Hello, Comrade Julius.
Yeah, woman.
I'm very old, but I like this idea of EFF. I would like to know if you have any contact in KZN. We are suffering, comrade, here in KZN big time. As right as I'm speaking to you, I'm from Eshowe. It's not far from Nkandla.
Yes.
And when we voted Jacob Zuma, we thought we are going to be a better off community. As I'm telling you, my commander-in-chief, that there is a farmer here who's owning a farm. And people around this farm, if they want to buy their own cows, they have to rent to this poor. So that means it limits the number of cows that people can buy, because they can't have more cows in order to rent in this poor, because those cows, they don't have grass to eat. The poor is claiming that if you buy a cow, there is no land that your cow is going to eat. So they're eating on my farm. Those kind of exploitation that we were still experiencing here in KZN, comrade.
All right.
Julius.
Okay.
Yes, thanks, man. No, your proposed policies are ours, comrade. Please, man.
All right. Okay. And then we go to Mapoto. Is it Mapoto?
Hi, how's it?
I'm all right. Welcome.
Thank you. Commander.
My chief.
Yes, I actually just need to actually say to you, for the first time in 20 years, the majority of South Africans have finally received a voice. You are speaking on our behalf. We are proud of you. You have developed in front of us. We are aware of the mistakes that you made, and the good thing about you is that you are not afraid to say you made mistakes and you will not make the same mistake again. Lead us to the promised land, Commander. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mapoto. You know, I'm very surprised, Julie, before you respond. I must be honest with you. Are these the volunteers of the Economic Freedom Front, freedom fighters, I beg your pardon, that you mobilized? Because everybody, almost to a person, is complimentary. And I thought the listeners were going to take you on, and that's why I'm sitting back and listening. But they all compliment you.
No, these are your callers. You'll have to take responsibility for them.
No,
this is your show.
You know, I suspect you must have sent SMSs and Twitter messages to all the volunteers and said, just flood that program with calls.
No. What we did was to retweet what PowerFM tweeted, and we communicated that we'll be spending some hour or so with you today. So these are the callers of PowerFM, and I think that they are genuine. And,
well, let me not be jealous or envious of you and have issues with that track, because I will ask my own questions anyway.
Yeah,
but I wanted them to talk to you.
Yeah.
So we took 4 calls there, and they raised a whole number of questions.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
No. I think that people should appreciate that I joined the struggle at a very, very, early age, and I participated and assumed responsibilities, when I was very young, and in the process committed mistake and said certain things because of the nature of youth politics, which need a very vibrant young person, a very energetic young person, the agitator who will make the youth be interested in politics. When we assumed the presidency of the Youth League, the youth by and large were not interested, and we made politics fashionable. And we are not saying we'll not make mistakes moving forward. We're human beings, and where we make mistakes we'll accept. And Mama in KZN, I mean, she's correct. Most of the volunteers we have who have submitted their names through the email address of EFF are from KZN, and they are saying, come and liberate us. That is the reality they are confronted with. Eshowe, people are suffering, like she said, and all over in KZN. It's a crisis of Indian domination as well in KZN. I mean, the harbors and the shipping, a business, the fishing business. The African majority is excluded, and the land ownership, it goes without saying that, is still in the hands of the minorities who are not prepared to share with the people. I mean, people are paying rent for their cattle, to be able to be accommodated in a particular farm in a country where they say they've got a land. They say this is our country, but they have to pay to somebody to farm in that area. And the reason why he gives them certain portions to do farming is because that person has got enough land. As to why he can allocate that land, a piece of it, to the community there to continue farming and producing for themselves, is something that one I continue to ask himself. They own hectares and hectares of land, and they are prepared to let such hectares out for people to rent because they are not using them. But once you say, but can't you give some portions to people, they've got a problem with that. But they are not utilizing those portions of land. The leadership style, one of the policies we were proposing towards the National Assembly on what is to be done, we're saying the benefits of political leadership should be reduced. I mean, we don't understand why the president should have a motorcade of 15 cars. For what? What threat do we have here in South Africa? I mean, it is that motorcade which actually draws unnecessary attention to the president. So the ministerial, handbook has to drastically change. Presidential benefits have to drastically change because we don't think that there are certain things which are necessary. We even making a call that if we were to assume power moving into the future, all public servants, including political leadership and members of legislatures, should use public facilities. It must be by law, so that those who are charged with the responsibility of maintaining and building infrastructure for the public, they will do so knowing very well that their children, are going to be, taught in those schools. They will build quality hospitals with, proper facilities, because they know that when they are sick, they will go into those hospitals. It was going to be so beautiful. Can you imagine if President Mandela was in Baragwanath Krisani, a hospital? It was going to be such a wonderful thing. But we can't risk that, because facilities are not of that quality which can service a president. We need to build an infrastructural capacity which will be of quality service to people like President Mandela and everybody else in South Africa. How do you do that? You do that by telling the public servants and politicians to use those facilities, and they will make sure that those facilities, perform, excellently. The corruption cases against me are before court. I've never done anything to try and avoid appearing before the neutral court of law, and I've said we need a speedy trial, and we'll be going before court to fight those allegations. If I'm arrested, the economic freedom fighters will continue with the struggle for economic freedom. We have said yesterday in the meeting of economic freedom fighters, we must not build the organization around one individual. We must make it an organization of the collective, so that even if Julius Malema is to die tomorrow, something that will not happen. The organization is able to live beyond, Julius Malema. So we have no crisis. Even if we are in prison tomorrow, we'll continue to shout economic freedom.
Now, you mentioned something about the minorities in KwaZulu-Natal, and specifically the Indians. And
Yes.
I've read a whole lot of commentary about you in different newspapers, on the internet and so forth, and blog sites. And many people of the minority communities, especially white folks in South Africa, think you're a racist. Are you?
I mean, I've got no such capacity to be a racist because of my relationship to the means of production. I mean,
but the view is that you've got a deep-seated dislike. I'm not even saying resentment or hatred, but it's like from the perspective of the commentators and people who write letters on those blogs.
I don't. The only problem with me, and that's why they call me those names, is that I don't pretend to them. They want a pretentious leadership, and they want us to behave as if there was never an apartheid, something that I'm not going to do. There was an apartheid. Our people were victims. It is their opportunity now to benefit, and those who benefited from apartheid and supported apartheid should show remorse and accept that it is the turn for black majority, in particular Africans, to benefit. I'm advancing the struggle for restoration of the dignity of African majority, and I'm unashamed about that. I've said so many times that I subscribe to the Freedom Charter, which says South Africa belongs to all who live in it, a black and white. And the revolution we're pursuing seeks to liberate blacks in general and Africans in particular, and it's not a racist revolution.
Another point I want to raise with you, you've got a radical agenda, it appears, right?
Yes.
The pillars that you mentioned.
Yes.
Well, it's good for rhetorical purposes, but it will never happen. And this is why. Because if we have to implement some of the things you're proposing, it looks to me that you may have to amend the Constitution. And in order to amend the Constitution, you'll have to have a substantial majority in Parliament. By the looks of things, the ANC is still a majority party, still very popular in the country, and it's going to take you a long time, if you even get there, to have the kind of popular support that the African National Congress enjoys at this time.
I don't think there's still a ANC, in South Africa. There is a former ANC, which is at a crisis point now. And this is, a very opportune moment for an alternative program. We are going to get the majority. If we decide we are going to be a political party, we can guarantee you a majority of South Africans will support us. We'll do everything in our power to ensure that we come up with a constitution that is going to give our people justice, not just reconciliation, but also justice to the majority oppressed people. And we are going to ensure that those who have a problem with that are not actually voted into power. So we are going to be working very hard, and South Africans, volunteers, our people are saying they are ready. And we should say to you, Bratim, it doesn't matter how long it takes, we are ready to fight it for as long as the imbalances of the past are not addressed. We'll fight on until we reverse the apartheid legacy.
This is the Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters Movement that launched today, Julius Malema, in the studio with me. Jeffrey, you are in Midrand. Welcome to Power Perspective here on Power 98.7. Welcome.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes,
Go ahead.
Commander.
He's listening.
Yeah, we're Commander.
Commander, how are you, Chief?
Fine, how are you?
I'm good. First of all, Commander, I need to actually congratulate you for coming up with this idea of freeing us from this new ANC that we're in. Congratulations very much for that.
Thank you.
And again, for apologizing for making us actually to have the president like we have currently.
Thank you.
I accept the apology. Thank you very much. Actually, I want to let you be aware that we are working very hard in the ground. We are mobilizing fighters to team as well. I just want to let you know, like, I heard you were saying how it's going to get the majority of voters. We are former ANC voters, actually, to clear this. So we are going to make sure that this EFF go forward is going to liberate us. Actually, the more I listen to it, like I'm listening to Thomas Sankara. So actually, like this is giving us even more energy. So thank you very much, Commander.
All right, we got it. Thanks. And let's go straight to Sbusiso in Davidton. Welcome, Sbusiso.
My Commander-in-Chief.
Commander.
How are you, Commander?
Fine, how are you, fellow fighter?
Good, man. You know you have made my day today.
Thank you.
And firstly, I want to ask you something. I know going forward we might have a youth movement within our structures. But seeing what happened to you while you were still under the ANC emblem. So I just want to know from you, do you think the Youth League in future should be as radically, vocally, and critically, especially on policy issues, as it used to be? Or you think it must be a change of heart and a change of listening capacity?
Okay.
And number two, I just want to know, seeing what happened with the King Dalichebo, the third king yesterday that was having some utterances to the president. And the king earlier on has mentioned that he has a politically home of choice. So don't you think people of such consciences, don't we need to visit them and convince them that rather than going to the DA because of hatred with the ANC and the hate that they have, don't you think that those people need to be controlled a bit and asked to come and join us?
We got that. We got the questions. Another Busiso Mdeni, Soweto. Good evening. Welcome.
Hi, how are you, Tim?
I'm right. And let me ask you to be very brief because I've got a lot of people who want to talk to Julius Malema this evening. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. How did you choose?
Bob.
Oh, no, Chuchu. Yeah, man, it's just an opinion for me.
We lost you? Okay, sorry. Please come back, Sbusiso. I'll put you in the queue quickly and take your call. Thabo is in Cape Town. Good evening, Thabo.
Tobela.
Yes, sir. Go for it.
Legai.
Okay, man. Yeah.
Tobela.
Good Tabo. I'm phoning from Cape Town. I just want to say, we have a lot of challenges which everybody's aware of. I mean, recently there's been a lot of uprisings and from Khayelitsha people throwing poo at the Premier of Western Cape, throwing poo at the airport. All of it because of the frustrations of being sidelined. I mean, Tim just said there's imbalances in South Africa. I'm from Northwest, and I've been here for over 2 years, and the imbalances that you see in Cape Town are shocking. I mean, I don't stay in a township, but you go there and it's so unbearable how people live in those types of situations.
Yeah.
So if you could just, what is your plan of how to mobilize Cape Town? Because Cape Town is so isolated and so far from Gauteng, and it looks like everybody is ignoring it.
Yes, we got that, Thabo. Let me just interrupt you there because we pressed for time. We've got only 3 minutes here for Julius Malema to respond to all the questions that we've taken or the calls we've taken. Go for it, Julius.
No, thank you very much. I think Cape Town, we will be visiting it very soon, and we are going to ensure that both the colored community and African people work together because they've got a common enemy in the DA. DA doesn't have their interest at heart. I mean, the colored people are being excluded in the fishing industry, which is their mining. And we are going to ensure that that is, reversed. They continue to fish, they continue to work in Cape Town because that is their land. They must never feel like they are foreigners in their own land. And the black majority, Africans and colored, let's unite against the DA because the DA undermines our people there. And those that poor revolution there is inspired by frustrations, and very soon I'll be visiting those comrades who are in the police cells for having led the poor masses of our people in Cape Town in solidarity with them and saying to them they need to hang in there because they were fighting for our people. And EFF is going to be part of every protest you can think of in South Africa. We are going to be part of our communities. Tomorrow we are in Tlokwe. There's a big march against corruption for those councillors who have fired for fighting corruption. We are joining them tomorrow. We'll be marching with them, and everywhere else where there is a crisis, we'll be part of the masses who are on the side of the masses. I'm going to be making contacts with the king's people. When you deal with the king, you don't call directly, especially when you are nobody, from royalty. I'm just a township boy from Seychelles, so I have to follow proper processes until I reach the king. The king remains one of the revolutionary kings, and we wish that there could be more kings, coming out to say enough is enough. The status that are given to them is not that of kings. They are only remembered when it's elections. In the EFF, we're going to be everywhere else. We're going to form a women's forum. We're going to form a youth structure. We're going to be contesting elections in the SRCs, in the universities, and we're going to also ensure that we mobilize the school children at pre-tertiary level. There is no longer youth league. There is a youth desk or some lapdog. That youth league of Nelson Mandela, Apimda, Mtolisi Majombozi, has been killed successfully, and it will never emerge.
Julius Malema is with me here on Power Perspective on PowerFM, and we are talking about the agenda of the Economic Freedom Fighters movement. Later on, from 10:30, I will be joined by Tsepo Tsula, who is with us here already. But just after the news, I'll be going to Sig in Randburg, Mlamli in Edenvale, Koza, Centurion, and still taking your calls. It's exactly 10 o'clock and time for news with Mpokubai.
Power News.
Your top stories at this hour. Malema launches the economic freedom fight. And while SAMU disputes, Metrobus has announced an end to strike action.